I'll never forget this one road race I did in Bakersfield, Fatty. We were 10 minutes to race time, and I was waiting for the porta potty when I noticed someone in my category tucked behind a tree taking a hit off a joint. Now, first of all, it is against the rules to have THC in your system during a USA cycling race. But second, I thought to myself, that guy must be either in a lot of pain or super nervous or something else to need a few hits prior to a race. If only Floyd's of Leadville had been around back then.
Yeah, Floyd uses CBD in their products, at least the ones we talk about in this show. And CBD is found in marijuana, but Floyd's gets theirs from hemp. So while you do get the calming effect, you won't be as high as a kite after using the Floyd's of Leadville products that we talk about on the show.
Now, primarily, the Floyd's products are used for recovery. The balms, the capsules, the drops, the protein powders. But Floyd's also has something with CBD for on the bike, something my race competitor apparently could have used. And that's a hydration fuel with CBD. The idea here is that it keeps inflammation at bay during a ride and maybe also helps with the nerves when it comes to those important events. So don't hide behind a tree with a lighter and a pipe. Get legit by getting some Floyd's CBD products.
Oh, this is the weirdest promo we've ever done. Be sure to check out Floyd's of Leadville, our presenting sponsor at floydsofleadville.com, and be sure to use the code FATTY at checkout for a 15% discount on your 2 orders. And thanks again, as always, Floyd's of Leadville for sponsoring the Leadville 100 podcast.
3, 2, 1.
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Floyd's of Leadville. This is Season 2, Episode 9 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, and freaks you out for the highest and hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. Fatty, we love getting questions from our listeners. They give us a chance to pretend to have answers, of course. So here's one from Dave E. He says, I will be out there meaning Leadville, to check out Leadville for approximately 2 days over 4th of July weekend and wanted your input on the best way to utilize my time seeing the climbs and descents. Fatty, how about that?
I think that is going to be a fantastic time and a fantastic opportunity for this. Dave, I'd say be sure that since you're going to be around during the 4th of July weekend, no matter where you ride, be sure to come out and watch the start of the Silver Rush, which is that weekend as well. The run up Dutch Henry Hill, it is the craziest, most absurd thing you will ever see. Whether you're watching the run or the mountain bike race, both of them have to do it. I'll be racing the mountain bike version, so find me, say hi before or after the race. I'm always super stoked to meet our listeners and hear how your race prep is going. Now, onto the ride. The advice that you were asking for. I checked with Dave before this show to be sure and make sure that he really does just have 2 days. So which parts of the course are must see if you only have 2 days? I would say easy call. On your first day, go ride to the summit of the Columbine Mine and back, starting from the Twin Lakes Dam. You won't be able to do the exact course because it is open to the public only on race day, just a little part from the dam to the beginning of the climb. And that said, I'll go ahead and in the show notes put up my Strava of the course so you can follow along if you're not familiar with the course. And it's very close to what you will experience on race day. It's super helpful to get a sense of how hard the altitude is going to hit you, what parts you have to and don't have to walk. And unlike race day, of course, you'll have time at the summit to get some photos from that amazing view. Bring your camera because you will want it. And then on the second day, I say park at the pipeline and then ride and walk basically the final 25 miles of the race. That means the pavement past the fish hatchery, go up the power line. Be sure to think about what it's going to be like to come down that earlier in the race. And then down Sugarloaf, down Hagerman's, up the pavement to Carter's, then down Keevan's and take the road up to Boulevard and up that and across the finish line. That's a pretty big ride. It's only a quarter of the ride, but it's a pretty big, important part of it. If you do those as your 2 rides during that weekend, well, you'll be pretty cooked for one thing. And you also will have done all of the most challenging climbs of the race. Hottie, is your take about the same, or would you recommend something different?
No, of course I'm different. First of all, with your Columbine suggestion, you can actually go a county road down further out of town from Leadville and make a right and intersect what is the alternate feed zone and park right there and then jump right on the Columbine climb. It'll save you that traversing around the private property section that we normally get to ride through on race day, but you can't.
Sure.
Outside of race day. So you can just park right there at the alternate feed zone, which is right at the base of Columbine, and then ride up that thing if you think you need to. To me, Columbine is not a big secret. It is just a big, fat, long climb. And it's hard to replicate what happens there on race day. Yeah, some people go, well, I want to see the descent. Yeah, the descent is rough coming down off Columbine, but it's hard to replicate because you don't have a line of people going up and down on the 4th of July like you will on the second Saturday in August. So it's really hard to replicate what's going on there. So I tell folks who are interested in checking out the course to look at the first third of the course primarily and going the outbound way. Now, first of all, you've got the ride out of town, and you could do that since you're there. It's not a bad idea to get a feel for that pavement and the turns and what's happening, but you can also do that the day before or 2 days before the race, the week of the race. So take it or leave it, the ride out of town. But again, that's a sketchy area come race day, and it's not a bad idea to get a little feel for that. I tell people do Keevan's, Sugarloaf, Powerline, Descent in that order. If you want to split those up in 2 days, great. If not, fine. You can actually park down out of town at the bottom of the pavement down there as you come out of town, just before you cross the railroad tracks. There's a big parking lot over there just before you cross the tracks and head on to Keevan's. Then ride Keevan's and get a feel for that climb and rolling up and over the top of it, and then out onto Turquoise Lake Road and around Turquoise Lake and then over to Hagerman and make that ride on the Hagerman and get a feel for that washboard. Climb Sugarloaf again, and thinking about, okay, if it was a little crowded in here, how would that feel? It can be tight, but it's going to be one-way traffic at least come race day. And so the feel you get on the 4th of July should be somewhat similar. I would also tell you, obviously this is going to take you to the Powerline Descent. What I want you to do here, though, is try and time it so that you're hitting the Powerline Descent about the time you think you're going to hit it on race day. And here's why. This is my hot tip. It's the sun. As the sun is coming up Leadville race day morning, it glares onto the Powerline Descent. And the Powerline Descent can get dusty and hard to see. And you want to get an idea of what kind of optics, what kind of sunglasses you might need for that morning, and how your vision's going to react as you're going down Powerline. Because it's going to make a big difference as you're trying to pick out rocks and debris and people on the side and branches or whatever might be in your way the morning of the race. So that's what I tell people to do if they have limited time to check out the race course in Leadville.
I like your suggestions. I think mine are just a little bit better. I think Dave is just going to have to stay for 4 days, dude. Sorry, man. You're going to need to extend that vacation, find a way, call in sick, do what you got to do. Either way, let us know how it goes, Dave, and come say hi to the Hammer and me while you're there.
Last summer at Crusher and the Tusher, I was talking to another writer, a friend of this podcast, in fact, about clothing. And this is a top rider, mind you, who is sponsored by a high-end clothing company. So we were talking about what we like to wear on the bike, and we both agreed that for anything other than a race, we like to keep it on the loose side, especially when it comes to jersey tops.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree on that. After years of wearing tight-fitting Lycra, tight-fitting jerseys, and, as I get older, they seem to fit tighter and tighter. It is really nice to go on a ride wearing a jersey, at least, that doesn't feel like it is constricting and just holding on for dear life.
So recently, when it came time to pick something out from the Shimano clothing store, and yes, they do have clothing, I went straight for the Explorer lineup and grabbed a Transit Pavement jersey in Zinfandel wool. Now, the jersey's not made of wool. That's just a color description. It's actually a polyester fabric treated with antimicrobial and anti-odor. It has a breast pocket and 2 small ones out back. I got it, put it on, went for a ride. It was perfect for my 30-mile low-stress cruise. Roomy enough for airflow on a warmer day, or I felt like I could wear a base layer underneath if I had to do that. I have yet to do it, but this jersey is also technical enough for a long day on the gravel or on a mountain bike, provided you have a backpack or a frame bag to carry the rest of your stuff.
Yeah, there are days for racing, and for those, of course, you want to have something that is form-fitting and is close and doesn't flap in the wind. But for your training rides, for low-key rides, for super long days out on the saddle, check out Shimano's Explorer line of apparel. You can just go to bike.shimano.com for more on that. And we'll also have a link in Leadville100podcast.com.
Fatty, we just finished up another round of interviews with our nutrition expert, Roxanne Vogel, and those will be coming soon in future episodes. But one little preview here from Roxanne was that she said, for people who have a hard time getting down foods, solid foods, whether it be goo or bars or whatever, she suggests getting calories from your bottle, which made me immediately think of Morton drink mix.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I just didn't say anything since she's a goo employee, but mixing calories and hydration is a controversial subject for the last couple of years. And some companies say that the two don't mix well, but I would, at least for myself, and I think you would agree, differ. I love getting my calories from a bottle, and Morton has just nailed it. They've totally debunked that with their blend called Hydrogel, and it keeps your gut just feeling great. You don't have to deal with the digestion, and it does not disrupt hydration, at least not for me, and from what I understand, not for you.
Yeah, Fatty and I have both used Morton because it comes in our packs from the feed. The Morton drink mix comes in 2 concentrations. If you subscribe to the feed, you'll look in there, you'll see a couple of black packets. One's larger than the other. So it's Morton drink mix. They come in 160 and 320 calorie packets. The taste is neutral, but the effects are dynamite. If you get food fatigue on those long rides, Morton could be a great solution, and you can make Morton part of your order with the feed.
Yeah, it's worth noting our podcast listeners can get a great price on a pack curated for Leadville racers. It contains Morton, it contains some Roctane gels, it contains a lot of the things that you will need for your Leadville training and for your racing. Just go to thefeed.com/Leadville, get our Leadville pack, and you can use the code Leadville15 for a 15% discount on it. And you can also use that code, that Leadville15 code, for buying any amount of Morton at a 15% discount. And you will want to get a bunch because you got to use it while you train so that you will be comfortable with it when you race. I'll be using that product in the Silver Rush, in Crusher in the Tusher, and of course in the Leadville 100 this year.
Again, thefeed.com/Leadville and use the Leadville15 code at checkout. Fatty, back when we found out that the Leadville 100 would be starting in waves this year, everyone was naturally very interested in how this change would affect the race.
Yeah, and of course, everyone's biggest question is, how is that going to affect me? And that makes sense. But the second most common question everyone seemed to have was, how is this change going to affect Ty Hall? And that is a very interesting question because Ty is one of the best-known fixtures of the Leadville 100.
Yeah, Ty, yep, he's the guy who every year starts at the very back of the race voluntarily. Like, he's the last person off the starting line.
Yeah, and then it's his job to pass as many people as possible during the race. And for every person he passes, various donors kick in money for charity. And is a very fast guy, someone who from the back last year, and I just checked this today, finished in 8 hours, 27 minutes. That's from the very back of the race where he had to pass everyone. And he has finished well under 8 hours when he doesn't start from the back. He's obviously a fast guy, and he is passing people pretty much nonstop from the very beginning of the race through the end. He raises a lot of money for charity. And he's also a year-round Leadvillian. I understand that is the correct way to pronounce a resident of Leadville, a Leadvillian. So I got him on the phone to hear a little bit more about his story. Ty Hall, it is so great to have you on the Leadville podcast. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Yeah, we're having a good winter up here in Leadville this winter season. So we're doing awesome.
You know, I have never been to Leadville in the winter. So tell me, if you are, standing on Harrison, how deep is the snow on either side of the road right now?
Right now we just came out of a big snow cycle, so we're having a ton of snow. I think the streets in town are down to kind of one lane, and everybody's got 4 and 5 feet of snow literally in the front yard. So it's a winter wonderland up here for sure right now. But might take a little while to melt out this year, but it's a good ski season so far, so we're psyched.
Oh yeah, and it means good things for everyone, right? I mean, a lot of snow means that there is less chance of a real burn season. So, fingers crossed, and it's going to mean things are going to be beautiful and green when we're there this August.
It is, and all the rafters are excited for sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh yeah, that's going to it's going to mean good things for a lot of people. So, just an additional question: up at 12,000 feet, how much snow is there? Have you been that high recently? Have you taken a look at how deep it is up there?
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, just here at 11,000 feet at the Nordic Center, when I hop off the Groom Trail, I mean, you literally go, to your chest. I mean, you're almost to your armpits. So we have, quite a bit of snow. So I think getting up and over Sugarloaf might take a little bit this year, before that melts out for sure, but it'll be good.
Oh man, I am looking forward to August this year and seeing how it looks. We ought to get some pictures there. So, you are of course one of many riders who races Leadville, the Leadville 100, I should say, each year. But you do things very uniquely. Tell us a little bit, for the folks who don't necessarily know your unique race strategy, what you do each year and why.
So the last 4 years of the race, I've completed the race or done the race 17 years. In the last 4 years, I've done it as a fundraiser for the Leadville Legacy. Mm-hmm. The Leadville Legacy is a foundation that Ken and Mary Lee started here in town, and they do fundraising for local charities and local kids, the Full Circle, the Head Start programs. They give a $1,000 scholarship to each kid that graduates high school and that's going on to higher education. So they do a lot of great things here in the community of Leadville. So that's kind of what the whole program is about, keeping it local and keeping money local and trying to help our local community.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that is really in the spirit of why the race was started, right? It was to help out the locals in Leadville, and the Leadville Legacy really does a fantastic job for the next generation of Leadvillians. Is that the right term for a resident of Leadville? Leadvillians?
Yeah, Leadvillians. Yeah,
Leadvillians?
Yeah. No,
I like that.
That is. Yeah, it is.
Okay,
it's kind of the offbeat one, but the Leadvillians for sure, and it is a good thing, and you're right. It's exactly why Ken and Mary Lee started the race series, the run, and the mountain bike. To try to get some economic benefit to our community, and it's done that for sure.
And your approach for fundraising is really cool. Tell us how you do it. Tell us what you're doing each year.
So I start the last 4 years, like I was saying, I start dead last in the 100 in the bike race, and different people sponsor. The first couple of years, it was Transamerica who did it, and they kind of started the whole program. And I start dead last, and they donate money to the Leadville Legacy for the local charities for every person that I can pass. So the last 4 years, I've passed close to basically around 1,400 people. So I start dead last, and give or take the 30 or 40 people every year, approximately 1,400 people I pass. And then again, money gets raised and different people donate to that cause and, for the legacy. So it's a really cool program to be a part of for sure.
That is, and it's a fun way to do it. Now, you don't personally have to keep track of each person that you're passing, do you? I assume that there's just, you look at how many people started and what your finish place was and subtract, right?
Right, that's how they do it. Yeah, of course, people ask me that. They're like, so what number are you on? I'm like, oh, man, I have, no idea, But, no, they keep track of that for me, which is great because I'm just focused on trying to do it safely and get around everybody and have a good race. But, yeah, it's a really cool thing to do for sure. And, it's been good numbers so far.
So let's talk a little bit about the first part of the race for you because, of course, it's always been a mass start up until this upcoming year. And I know, we all know how incredibly packed everything is up to and past the St. Kevin's climb. Are you trying to pass people there, or are you relaxing until things open up a little bit? What is your strategy at the very beginning of the race?
It's kind of, it definitely is one of those things you have to go out pretty hard and pretty fast. And so I'm definitely, when I start dead last, it's kind of funny because the gun goes off. I'm up there at the top of 6th Street, and I'm waiting for a couple minutes as the crowd goes through and people are going. And then literally as I get to the start line, it's like I just hit the gas, pretty hard. And I stay off to the side to where I'm not weaving in and out of people. I just end up kind of on the gravel on the side of the road. Like you said, when I'm going up St. Kevin's, I'm definitely passing people, but I'm staying, I'm taking the off line, the line that nobody really wants to take, but it's the only really good way to get around people, and of course, then you pop out onto the lake road and you get to, get cranking down the hill and that kind of stuff on Turquoise Lake, so you get by quite a few people there as well. Yeah,
and so by the time you get to, say, Carter's, the Carter's aid station, if you were to guess, or I don't know, maybe you've been able to look specifically, by then about how many people have you passed?
Someone told me that by the time we got to Carter Summit, the top of the lake, that I'm around the 900. Like, it goes pretty quick.
So you
around
passed
900
500 people in the first hour is what you're saying.
Exactly. I mean, everyone's out going really quick and that kind of stuff, but just living here and knowing the alternate routes and rides, and I even practice it, during the year. I'm like, okay, let's ride over here for a while and go, off to the side here, that kind of stuff. A lot of people like to stay in the main grooves, which is totally understandable. But when you're trying to do something like I'm doing, you're like, okay, you're looking for that extra line, that extra edge that can get a few more people. And it definitely is going through my head. You're like, okay, the more I can get through here, I can settle into the race after a little bit. But more importantly, you're trying to do the best job I can for the foundation. But I'm also, a big thing in my mind is doing it as safe as possible,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no one wants to get hurt. And, of course, no one wants to be hurt. So, yeah, I mean, it really is a pretty amazing balancing act, what you do. I mean, trying to move through a crowd that, of course, has their own interests in mind, and keeping those, the interests of all those racers at heart, while still trying to be as fast as you can. What is, and I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here, but what is your fastest time personally?
My fastest time personally, I think, was like 7:38 or something, 7:36, somewhere around there. I've had like three races in a row there that I was the 7:40, 7:30 something, and then it was really cool because I really felt like I had some good years there, and I never get bored with the race, but in the same breath, I was like, okay, now what do I do?
What's your next challenge?
I got to the point, I was like, I can't go. This is all I got. This is about as fast as I can ever go. So you're like, what do you do now? And then I feel like I was lucky when they approached me, when the Leadville Legacy and Lifetime Fitness, were like, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And so, it was a really cool thing for me to jump on, for sure. And it gave the race for me, after doing it for so many years, just a completely renewed and rejuvenated purpose. So it's a really cool thing, and I'm not, like I said, I wasn't bored with the race, but you're kind of like, well, that was about as fast as I can go. What do I do now? And so when that came to be, I took it in a heartbeat. Although I have to say, when they first called me and said, we want you to start dead last, I was like, what? You're like, no way. It's taken me years to get into the front corral. Now you want me to go to the back? So there was a little bit of that instantly, but then when they went into it, I was like, okay, no, that's cool. I want to be a part of this. So that was really cool.
So whose idea was it? I mean, is there one person who can claim credit for this brainchild?
I mean, honestly, it was the race director at the time. I mean, it was really the main sponsor, TransAlp, in the very beginning. It was their idea, and they're like, hey, we want to do something, but they were, we want to do something that's going to be good for the community, and TransAlp was like, we want to be the sole sponsor of this, and the first year we raised $7,500, which was like great. Everybody was super excited. I can't remember what the dollar value or what per person it was, the math on that one. But then Transamerica was like, well, we're going to step away from the 100 or look at some other sponsorship things.
Sure.
And really when they did that, it allowed other people to join in. And that's when the last couple of years, we've just been so lucky to raise the money that we did. The year before last, it was like $38,000 or something.
Oh, that's incredible.
And then last year we did almost 70 or right at 73,000. So,
wow.
Like I said, it just allowed other people, Param, other guys, and so many people that are in the race came up and they're like, hey, I did $1,000 or I did, 50 cents a rider that they would pledge. And it really allowed the mountain bike community that comes to Leadville to embrace it and join in. And so I think a lot of people wanted to be a part of that. And that was really cool. And that's when we really started getting some great numbers because, like I said, a lot of people come to Leadville and I think they do want to do more than just race their bike. They do want to feel part of the community and part of the mountain bike thing. And that's where everybody that comes has just been so awesome. And like you asked about passing and that kind of stuff and riding with the people, it's really fun. And I'm always super careful and people are polite and they are doing their own thing, but everyone out there is so supportive of this program that, I tell them not to move, but they literally want to get out of your way because they want to help in any way that they can. And so it's really cool.
So there are a lot of people who are starting pretty far back in the line and who are interested in moving forward. You are the master, obviously, of moving through the field. What advice would you give to someone who is starting pretty far back but knows that they are fast and wants to move forward through the field?
I think, for me, I'm lucky I get to race a lot, literally, weekly basis in the summertime. So getting used to riding with people is a huge thing. So if you're not used to crowds or you're not used to, the potential of buzzing wheels or, rubbing elbows, that's something that you should try to do beforehand. Because I do see people, and rightfully so, trying to be as safe as possible and not causing an incident or having things like that. So getting that experience of racing helps a lot, in some of the shorter cross-country races that it's really intense, we're definitely touching each other, that kind of thing. So you get a little bit used to that. But definitely, like I said, staying off to the side, and kind of out of the way is the best way to move through. I've definitely sat in the middle of a pack just looking for a way out of the middle of the group because once you get in that middle pack, you're stuck, a lot of times.
Yeah.
And again, you have to do it as safely as possible and really have the, awareness of you and your bike because sometimes you think you're by somebody because you can't see them anymore, but your rear wheel is there. So you have to be, careful with that and really get used to kind of riding in crowds, and trying to stay out of them. Like I said, you get in that middle pack and it's fine if you're happy with the speed that everybody's going. But if you want to move up to another corral or whatever it might be to try to get through people. It's really, in my opinion, staying off to the side to where you can get around people.
Yeah. If you want to be the person to get away from the pack, you have to, I guess, take the consequence of that, which is you got to be willing and able to ride on the offline, as you described. So, yeah, that's fantastic advice.
Yeah, exactly. And the first year I did it, I flatted twice because of that offline scenario. So there can be, I actually flatted going up St. Kevin's because I was way off in the, bigger rocks and stuff and hit it. And then I actually flatted on the way down on the way home trying to get around somebody, and I was off in the little ditch on the right and just creamed something. And so it can bite you as well. So you have to be, willing to have that risk a little bit. And for me, the risk reward is there, but of course having to stop to fix a flat or something is not too good, and it's a bummer. But, that's where I'm like, okay, just stay calm, get this thing fixed, and let's go at this again, And it's funny with that scenario because you see some people that happens to, and they get upset, and man, they burn a lot of energy just getting upset about it. So I think just trying to be, smooth, steady, will get you around quite a few people. For the people who are starting in the back, it's definitely, doable, obviously. So.
Yeah. And you make a great point. Anger costs energy, right? And it's not a day where you want to burn energy unnecessarily. Save it for the pedals. So when something unfortunate happens, whether it is a flat or other mechanical or someone cuts you off, realize that everyone's riding with good intentions and accidents happen, and, keep it calm. Take care of what needs to be done, get back on the bike, and, finish enjoying the day, right?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's definitely faster. I mean, if I stop in a panic or I'm flustered or I'm mad and try to change a tire, it's going to cost me several more minutes. If I just stay calm, take that moment to get my heart rate under control and even, take a break for a second, but efficiently and quickly change the tire, I'm off a lot quicker than if I get upset about it. So...
Yeah, 100%. So this year is going to be a little bit different than it has been for you in the past because, of course, there is the wave starts with the corrals, which means that you would be starting, I think, 8 minutes or so later than the first people are starting. So I got to ask, first of all, are you doing, as you have been for the past 4 years, the start from the back again this year in 2019?
I am, as far as I know.
Awesome.
I've talked to Veronica, and I'm not exactly sure how the wave thing's going to play out, but, again, I'm sure, I'd really like to think I could pass that many, and I'm curious about that, too, because I'm like, okay, with a wave start and getting a little bit more spread out, could I get by as many, or will I get by, a few less, but my time might be quicker because I'm not having to negotiate or all of us having to come to a stop at the bottom of St. Kevin's or something. So you're almost like, I wonder if I feel like by the end of the day I could actually get it, but it might take me, like I wouldn't get to 900 people by the top of Carter Summit. It's going to take till on the way home, but hopefully I'll finally catch them, So.
Yeah. I will tell you that we did a special episode on the wave starts of the Leadville podcast when we first heard about this. And I asked folks on Facebook and other social media, for what their questions were. And by far and away, the most common question is, how will this affect Ty Hall? So there are a lot of people who are interested, and there are people who are arguing that this is going to make it possible for you to pass more people. People arguing that you're going to pass fewer people. So I think there are a lot of us who are going to be super interested. And I will add to the people who are interested, Chemo Seymour is very interested in knowing how you're going to do in this. So, there may be a little bit of side betting on this. Maybe there needs to be some kind of bonus if you can pass as many people as you have in the past this year when you are starting several minutes later than some of the other folks.
It really will be interesting to see. I was trying to play it cool, but actually it's the first I've heard of that. I kind of heard rumors of it, but I didn't know if that was true or not. So it sounds like it is. So
it's on the website. I think it's official.
It's official, yeah. Like I said, we've been so busy this winter, I haven't had a chance to think about it. But I think it'll definitely, I'll be curious too. I really hope I can past that many people still, but I think it'll just take me longer during the day. Like I said, I think the potential's still there to get everybody except for like chemo, but I'll never catch him. But, to get that many people, I really hope it will happen. But I think, because a lot of times after doing Columbine, I'm kind of with the people I'm going to be with the rest of the day. You're like,
right.
You're back to, similar speed people. So I think I can get a similar amount of people. It just might come slower throughout the day instead of everybody kind of in the beginning. So,
well, I mean,
it'll be interesting, though. I'm curious too.
So how can people recognize you? Of course, there's a million of us out there, and we're all wearing clothes that are different in color only. So how can people recognize Ty Hall as because we all want to root for you, right? There's no one who's not rooting for you in this race.
Right, and that's so awesome. Yeah, and again, it's that's the driving force, and that's what keeps me going all day is just people being so positive and so supportive. But last year, anyways, and sometimes it's been changing. But I have an orange and white jersey, and I think the back of it said "Dig Deep," So
oh, nice.
Yeah, so there were some, and it had the Leadville Legacy, on the back and the Dig Deep on the back. And, like I said, when people do recognize it, I get a lot of support. And, of course, that's huge, in keeping me going for the day, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to have you tell us a little bit about what you do for your day job. Here's a chance for you to plug what you do in Leadville.
So my day job, or my real job, is running the cookhouse here, our backcountry restaurant. We have the cross-country ski center, and then we have the overnight yurts. So my wife and I, Roxanne, who a lot of people might know from the movie, who was hit by the car, and has recovered well from that. But her and I run the business out here with the overnight sleep yurts and the restaurant and the Nordic Center. So that's what we do, to make a living here in Leadville. And it's been really, really good to us. We're 23 years in business now, and the community of Leadville and the guests coming and people from the bike races and that sort of stuff coming up to our restaurant. It's been a great thing for Roxanne and I here for sure. So, and it's why we get to mountain bike so much in the summertime. We're here 7 days a week in the winter, but in the off season, we are open in the summer, but it's not as busy. So we're lucky that we get to focus a lot on mountain biking. So
yeah, you're crazy busy right now, and so I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk with us, and I'm sure that all of the Leadville podcast listeners are going to love hearing your story. Let's make sure that they have your URL so that if they are interested in an awesome Nordic skiing vacation, they can get a hold of you. It's TennesseePass.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's our website, TennesseePass.com. Definitely check it out.
But, yeah, absolutely. And it's open summer and winter. It sounds like super busy and booked during the winter, but spring and summer may be a fantastic place to talk with a couple of people who know this race better than just about anyone between the two of you, right?
Yeah. No, we've been lucky to, we've done the race so many times. I'm looking forward to this year, because we're getting so much snow, like we were talking about before. I'm really curious. The last couple of years have been so dry, and I thought the course was pretty kind of slow last year. So I'm hoping all this moisture from the winter and all the snow we're getting is going to really pack down and keep that ground firm and fast. So it'll be exciting this coming race season for sure.
Oh yeah, knock on wood. I would love to have a fast course, but it's anything can happen, right? It can look perfect, and then a headwind comes, and you find yourself going about half as fast as you had expected to. It's amazing, and I mean it's been a long time since we've had a real rainy year or real rainy day during the race. So who knows? I'm not inviting any of those things. I'm not invoking the jinx. I'm just saying, the day's going to be what the day is going to be. But
it always is, for sure. Just what you said is so true, and you just take what comes and you go for it. So it'll be good.
So, Ty, after hearing all of this, I'm sure that there are a lot of racers, a lot of listeners who are going to be interested in matching it or donating any way that they can. How can people do that?
Yeah, so people can definitely reach out to the Leadville Legacy and donate, in any way or any amount that they can or want to, and join in the effort. They also, the day before at the meeting on Friday, they have a booth set up. You can go to the booth and donate 5 cents a rider. You can donate $100. You can donate in any way that you want. And the reason that it has been so successful the last couple of years is because every racer or everybody who can getting involved has made it, what it is right now, for sure.
What is your finish time prediction this year?
I have been trying so desperately to get under 8 hours starting dead last. I'd love that. I've been that 8:20. So my honest time prediction, if everything the way the snow is and a lot of different factors, I'm hoping for that 8:05, maybe sub 8, that's always in the back of my mind. I hope I can pull that off someday. But yeah, any way that I get to do it and get to raise that kind of money, I'll take whatever time it is, that's for sure.
Ty, huge pleasure talking with you. Thanks again for talking with us on the Leadville podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me and look forward to seeing everybody this summer.
Folks may have remembered Ty Hall from an appearance in the Race Across the Sky movie too. So that's probably why you recognize Ty Hall is.
Yep.
Yes, he's been
his wife,
Roxanne. Roxanne.
Yep,
Roxanne is her name. That's right. The two of them have both been in the Race Across the Sky movie, so that's why. And Ty, just overall, all around good guy.
Really is a great guy, and he is super busy this time of year with his Nordic skiing hut-to-hut type business, and which I would say would make a really amazing vacation if only I knew how to ski.
We'll be sure to include a link to how you can pitch in as Ty Hall once again raises money for the Leadville Legacy Foundation.
Yeah, time will tell whether he passes more or fewer people with this wave start. I am super interested to find out.
The other day, I was on a road ride with a small group. We were on a 45-minute climb here locally in LA called Latigo. Now, near the top, Fatty, I started hearing something coming from my back wheel. Turns out, I had worn down my rear tire to the cords, and now the tube was trying to make its way through what was left of the casing.
Oh.
Good job, Hottie.
Yeah, I've done that before.
I was 35 miles from home. I was thinking of having Mrs. Hottie come rescue me, but instead of pulling out my phone, I pulled out my Banjo Brothers cycling phone wallet. You see, I don't use the phone wallet to store my phone. Instead, I use it to store the essentials I need on every one of my rides, no matter what bike I am riding. Yeah, I have a seat pack for the tube and that stuff, the tube specific to the bike I'm on, but for the rest of the stuff, ID, credit card, cash, multi-tool, zip ties, patch kit, valve extender, and in this case, the most important thing I had in that wallet, a tire boot. I pulled out my phone wallet, grabbed the tire boot, booted that tire, reinflated, turned around, and headed for home, and Mrs. Hottie was never disturbed. That cycling phone wallet is really cool. It has this clear plastic material to it, so you can see everything that's inside without opening up. It keeps moisture out. It's cheap, like $6. Banjo Brothers has other phone storage stuff too if you need something a little bigger, like a handlebar phone pack or their bar top bag, both of which are under $20.
Yeah, really good solutions for not a lot of money. I love how you are this weird mixture of completely ill-prepared and very prepared with your bike, letting your tire wear down well past when you should have changed it, but having what you needed to make the fix. So congratulations and shame on you, I guess. Anyway, you can get a 20% discount on your order by going to banjobrothers.com/fatty-favorites. Banjo Brothers is tough. They're practical. They're affordable. They're based in Minneapolis. They've been in business since 2003, and they're just super good guys. Get 15% off your order by going to banjobrothers.com/fatty-favorites.
Fatty, I know you're a fan of Trainer Road, which means you have plenty of experience on the stationary trainer. And do you do Zwift as well?
I have played with Zwift, and I know a lot of people who like it, but I personally prefer Trainer Road because it is my time to catch up on all the shows I'm interested in, right? And also I like to look ahead on the phone and see exactly how much of an effort in terms of time and intensity I've got coming up.
Now, I avoid riding in place like the plague. See, I have a hard time pushing myself without a wheel in front of me. And I'm lucky enough to live in a climate where even during the winter, I can get out and get with other riders and push myself if needed. But if I were in Minnesota or Ohio or Leadville, what would I do? How would I create that fight or flight feeling while riding in one place? How about a spin class? Now, this idea of stationary riding got me wondering, could a mountain biker like a Leadviller use indoor group rides as part of their training, aka spin classes? To find out, I checked one out. A class taught by my friend Tony Manzella, who's an instructor with Windburn Studios.
So spin it up to 95. High RPM recovery. This is a classic kind of back and forth where your effort is at low RPM and then you spin up those legs. Get yourself up to a high RPM. Hold steady. See where the number is and then make a micro adjustment after that.
It's appropriate I'm here with Tony Manzella because Tony... How I met Tony Manzella. That's how I'm going to start this interview. I met Tony on a ride he used to lead out. It was the Santa Monica 100, which is still going on to this day. It's a 100-mile mountain bike ride. And it was my entry into long-distance mountain bike riding. Tony somehow said, hey, why don't you come on this ride with us? We do it, I think it was twice a year back then. And so I jumped in. I had no idea what I was doing, but Tony dutifully led with his father this 100-mile epic mountain bike ride in the Santa Monica Mountains. I survived. I went on to get the bug for endurance mountain biking, later became a Leadviller, started Leadville 5 times, finished 4 times, and turned that into a podcast. So without you, Tony, there'd be no Leadville 100 podcast. How does that make you feel? Must make you feel pretty good.
That's cool. That sounds like cycling at its best. Right. That's why we do it.
Now, really what we're here to talk about, Tony, is the class you teach, Tony, for Windburn Studios. It is is this a spin class? Is that what it is, or is it something else?
It isn't a spin class at all. A spin class, to me, is exercise. This is training. There's nothing wrong with exercise. There's nothing wrong with being motivated by a room filled with music and somebody at the front barking out things that you can hear sometimes, asking people what they did last night, and a social event. We all love that. But spin classes don't give you feedback that you can actually apply to a real world riding experience.
So you have your folks here on CompuTrainers, right? How does your class work? How does it differ from the traditional spin class?
So you have to show up with basically have to show up ready to go on a real ride. Your bike, a kit, a water bottle, and you have to set your bike up on a trainer that is a smart trainer that actually takes a reading based on the pressure of your tire against a flywheel. It calculates power. And that power, as a lot of people know, feeds you data that is relevant to what you do on a real bike.
We're going to get into the power numbers in a minute because I watched. I didn't do the class, but I did watch Tony sweat for an hour and 15 minutes with 6 of his students here, 6 of his classmates. And I did observe something that was rather interesting, I think, during the class that I'll get to in a minute. But regarding the Leadville athlete and the long-distance mountain biker or long-distance cyclist, can the long-distance cyclist benefit from an hour 15-minute class, such as the one you put on here?
Yeah, and the reason they can is because if you establish your zones and you know what those zones mean, which is easy to find on the internet, you do not have to go, although some people go get a lactate threshold test where you actually ride a bike for a certain amount of time, they draw blood, and they tell you anatomically what your body can do at a certain level. If you don't go do that, you can take this class, you can establish those zones just by writing patterns. And with that knowledge of your zones, you can determine how long you can survive on your bike at a certain effort based on power. If you don't want to spend the money on power meter, you can use heart rate. So you can go to Leadville, you can train, and then go to Leadville. They can say, go. You can get your heart rate to 140 beats. And you know at 140 beats, you're going to average the maximum speed. You're going to empty that tank so that hopefully at 8 hours and 20 minutes, you're at the finish line and you did what you needed to do to get that belt.
We're doing this interview in the middle of winter. It's been actually raining here in Southern California and snowing all over the rest of the country. And I'm sure there's a lot of riders who have that dilemma, like, oh, I'm missing my long ride. This week got rained out. I missed my 8-hour session on the bike or what have you. Can somebody take this type of class or a spin class or what have you and replace some of those lost hours? Is that a fair way to try and balance out some missed time on the bike?
Yeah, so you can look at it 2 ways. You can look at it as probably the most efficient bike ride you've ever done, because I always say these classes are like running on your bike. If you've ever run before, or when you run with a person especially who cycles, the thing you usually end up talking about is, I only have to run for 30 minutes, because in our brains as a cyclist, we all know that you need to ride for a long time. And chances are you're riding for a long time, but there's a lot of downtime, coasting, coming to stops. If you're on the CompuTrainer for 65 minutes, you're never coasting for a second. Every pedal stroke is a focused effort. So you can do 2 things. You can ride for a short amount of time with extreme efficiency, or yes, you can get on the bike if you want to and do a longer ride and know that you're in zone 2, just like your coach prescribed, for 5 hours if you want to sit in front of the Netflix for 5 hours. Yeah.
So you're not disregarding the long ride. I mean, that's still an important part of anybody's training, to be able to go out and go outdoors
Duration
and ride
is,
for a long time. I mean, that's something the CompuTrainer can't do.
Correct. Yeah. You can't do it. You can do it. You can sit on that thing. But again, you're going to fulfill what you need to do to your schedule, but you cannot replace duration in the real world and how your body reacts to that, not only from the inside, but from the outside too. Mm-hmm. What if your back starts hurting? What if your arms start hurting because of your position on your mountain bike and going over certain terrain? Mm-hmm. So it's not a replacement, but it's a really good substitute if necessary.
Yeah. There's also how to eat properly on the bike, how to grab the bottle out of the cage, how to change a tire. Well, all that stuff you learn, and eventually you have to go out and ride on the bike. Yes. Back to your class now. What are the energy systems you are emphasizing when you take people through this hour 15 routine?
So everything is based on your FTP. So if you don't come into class with if you don't know what your FTP is, or at least a starting point, you can establish that over time. But ideally, if you know what your FTP is, which is your 60-minute maximum effort, you feed that into the machine, and all of the efforts, all of the zones are based on that. So we'll say we start off with a 10-minute warm-up, and then we go into a series of blocks. And those blocks are going to deliver to you those efforts. So if you do 2 minutes at, say, 85%, as long as you're riding a perfectly even cadence, the CompuTrainer is going to deliver 85%, which is zone 3-4, for that 2 minutes, and then take you straight into a 1 minute recovery or whatever the workout is for that day. Every workout's unique. Every workout has a purpose, and every effort is delivered to you some way through the CompuTrainer where you can't do anything but that effort.
And as opposed to this traditional spin class that we know, I did not see tonight a lot of red zone work. I was actually kind of surprised. I'm like, it looks manageable, but that's by design, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not trying to create massive sprinters here.
No, and the thing about a spin class is, even if you see somebody in a spin class who's really good at spinning at 120 RPMs, which very few people ride at that rate. Actually, most of the time you don't ride at that rate. You still don't know what amount of power that person is putting out at that rate. Here, we're more concerned about that number, that real world number. That number means something, not an aesthetic. Spinning is more a visual experience. Like, you look around at the class, the people at the front row, they're usually just really good at spinning really fast, and that looks impressive to that community, which is fine. But if you're training, especially for Leadville, you can't take those chances. You need to know what your body is really doing. And I was thinking about this over the last week, is that we surround ourselves with data of things we make. So we make cars, and we put all this cool data in that car. And all that data we take in and make a decision based on that. You get into your car, you look at your fuel gauge, and you go, okay, I'm low on fuel. You're going to make certain choices based on that. You're probably not going to drive the car super fast if you know you're super low on fuel. You're going to make all these choices. You probably know if you're going to go to Mammoth, how much gas you're going to need, and you're probably going to fuel up a Mojave. But you spend most of your life not having that same information about yourself. You know the specs on your TV better than you know the specs about your heart or how you can burn fuel, the fuel you take in and how you can burn that fuel efficiently. And it was really kind of blowing my mind how I was thinking about that we surround ourselves with specifications that affect us, how we interact, how we have fun, but we don't know the specifications about ourselves.
Mm-hmm. The class itself is extremely data-driven, and there's a big screen TV you have up there, and everyone can see everyone else's power numbers and heart rate. Yeah. But here's something I took away. Despite all the data that was going out, and there was a lot of it, I thought what you were teaching people was feel. In the end, you were teaching them how to feel how hard is hard and how hard is too hard.
Yeah, if you go to these classes, or if you're a number freak, and you have your head down, looking at that number. I used to be on a team, and I would give the guys on the team crap when they had their head down. They were so fixated on the number that they were never going to know, it was never going to become innate or intuitive if they didn't get their head away from that number. So in the class, because I've been riding for so long, I do have a lot of intuitive feel. I'm always trying to get people away from, okay, yeah, we're at 85. Keep remembering how 85 feels. Collect data constantly. Not collect data like fixating on 85 and knowing that some kind of screen is delivering you that number. Know what 85 feels like if you had no data. Mm-hmm. And that takes time, though. You can't do that quickly. Mm-hmm. You have to do that over time. The big things I promote are riding by feel based on data and perfect circles.
Now, it'd be lovely if Windburn Studios was all across the country. Unfortunately, it is not. So, for somebody who's looking to get into a spin class or trying to get something close to this, what are some of the things they should look for in an instructor or a facility or what have you?
Well, I guess it really depends on what you're looking to get out of the class. You want to know what kind of trainers they're working with, what the interface is. Some people just want to get motivated, and hear somebody talk to them. And you might go to a class that isn't hooked up to anything, but that's enough for you to we're all looking for motivation, group ride motivation, whatever motivation it is, we're always looking for that to get us out at 5:30 in the morning, after work, whatever it is. So I think it's a combination of just finding a class that's going to motivate you, and then on top of that, how technical the class is, and is that suited for you and what you're trying to achieve. Leadville is a big deal, so I do think you should look for that technical aspect, because it's going to be hard to get away with anything at Leadville.
Well, Tony, again, thanks for getting me started in this madness, and thanks for the words of wisdom on how to get better on a CompuTrainer.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Again, thanks to Tony Manzella. If you are in the LA area, it's Windburn Studios. Classes are generally Tuesday and Thursday evenings, and you will feel right at home because the classes are held in a bike shop. Giant Santa Monica is the location, right there on Main Street in lovely Santa Monica. And Fatty,
Nice.
like Tony said, his class is not your traditional spin class, and he is committed to using a CompuTrainer and data to get the most out of a group spin. That said, you can find cyclists who teach traditional spin classes. There's a racer here in LA who I know who does spin classes and at your standard fitness center. And I've talked to riders who swear by his workouts. And my sister, who has plenty of miles in the saddle, teaches spin. In fact, on New Year's Day, she puts on a 3-hour base mile spin class to get people jump-started on their fat burning. I was listening to an interview with a frame builder the other day. This is a builder who's made his name welding titanium. Frames you can depend on, frames that will last, frames that will put up with the worst a rider or trail or road can dish out. And he said, when a customer orders a complete bike, he likes the build to include Envy wheels because, in his words, those wheels are bomber. Now, I've heard Envy stuff described a lot of ways. Most often, it's light, fast, aero, good looking. But bomber was a new one on me.
Yeah, but you want bomber. Hey, you need bomber when you're going to race the Leadville Trail 100. You're, of course, starting the race by going up Keevans and going up Sugarloaf and going up Powerline and going up Columbine. But you got to remember you are also going to be going down all of those. And for those, the ride is going to be rough. In particular, that 20 to 30-minute thrashing down Columbine and the rocky rattle fest that is the Sugarloaf descent, it's going to test just how bomber your wheels really are. Having a wheel go to pieces in the middle of either of those downhills would not only ruin your race, they could very well ruin your face or other body parts.
So do yourself a favor and at least take a look at Envy's M5 wheels. They are certainly light and fast enough for Leadville. And if you believe one frame maker, they're bomber too. Check them out at Envy, that's ENVE.com. Okay, let's wrap up Season 2, Episode 9 of the Leadville podcast presented by Floyd's of Leadville. If you like this show or any of our shows, give us a 5-star rating and review over at Apple Podcasts. Also, find us on Spotify or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Help spread the word, too, by telling your cycling friends about the show and support our sponsors. Let them know you appreciate them making this show possible.
And meanwhile, if you have questions or ideas for us, head on over to Leadville100podcast.com. Go to the comment section and get in touch. Also, you can follow me on Twitter. You can also follow Hottie on Twitter. I'm at Fat Cyclist. Hottie is at Michael Houghton. You can also find us on Facebook, and we are both very active in the Leadville 100 MTB participants group. If you got a question, you can DM us, comment. I mean, so many ways. Technology, there's a great chance we're going to answer right here on the show.
Good luck in your training. Thanks for listening, and we will see you at the start line.
This is it. You're rolling in with one other person. The line's there, 10 seconds to the line. He can't come around you. You're taking it from the front to the line. Go.